I will be leading the conversation today, and Fabrice and I will be ping-ponging it back and forth to one another. But I will kick it off here. Thanks everybody for joining, and we're looking forward to having a good conversation about what we do in structured content, what most of us here do, and what we're interested in, and how we can really leverage both CDPs and increasingly AI to really do our jobs better and create better content. That's the name of the game. So I have been, just to give you a little bit of context here. There's Fabrice and I. You already know about that. But give you a little context about this conversation we're about to have. When I first started to just sort of put this presentation together, it was earlier in the winter for DITA Europe in Copenhagen, and I thought it was a very obvious thing to be saying that we would, that we would want to start to deliver our content strategy, delivery first, with CDPs. And so I think it still is kind of a very simple and maybe an obvious concept, but it's worth repeating because the details are what matters, and that's where it gets really interesting. But I'll start out with some terms and acronyms. MOTO, master of the obvious. If you think that's what this is, then good, and maybe some of the lower level details will start to generate some ideas in your head. If this is your first sort of exposure to this strategy, then great. Maybe it's not so obvious. Just a few other acronyms that you'll hear. We won't dive into them very deeply. I think you probably know what most of these mean. Of course, the CDP, Content Delivery Platform, that's what we are going to be saying a lot. And also we'll be talking about a lot of other items that have acronyms. DITA, Component Content Management System, CCMS, ROI, all of the AI acronyms. We'll be kind of throwing those around and putting them in context of content strategy. Okay, so get ready for that. That's you'll hear a lot of that, and we'll dive in. So the first thing I will say is that back in February, that was the first time that we had this presentation, or that I had this conversation with an audience of this presentation. This now is the fourth time that I've done this in a few months. Each time I've given a version of this, it has changed, and that is from a couple of different drivers, I would say. One is that I'm learning more about it. I'm hearing more people. I've been able to talk to more people about this particular topic, get their ideas, Fabrice being one of them, and really sort of evolve the conversation and what our different options are if we use this strategy. But the main thing that is changing this presentation each time is AI. It's moving so fast that each time I give this, which now is about a month in between, a month to 6 weeks in between the times I've given this presentation, AI has changed significantly, and it sort of alters our strategy a bit. In most cases, it enhances it, and so this is the latest and greatest that we can give based on what's happening out there. AI is really changing it quite a bit, and the advances in AI around content. So I'll move forward here. I'm talking about the present day, but let's back up a little bit and give some historical context. So we've been, a lot of people in the audience, Fabrice and I, and a lot of people in our industry have been doing this for many years. We can call them decades at this point. So this conversation that we're having should be sort of couched in this history, and simply put, DITA adoption and this sort of change that we've been driving as an industry, it's hard, and in a way, had a lot of headwinds to, you know, do our thing and push into. So change has been hard, and a lot of projects, I think we all probably are aware of projects that have failed uh, for different reasons, but one of them being that they took too long or cost too much, or maybe you know, weren't executed in the right way, or implemented in the right way, or all of the above, right? So this has been you know, a rewarding industry to be in, but change has been really hard. And the reasons for that are various, but I think we can sort of sum it up with, you know, organizational silos, hard to justify the spend and show the ROI, and you know, basically change management problems, right? Change resistance, all the things that you see here in this list. So that's what the historical context has been, but things are changing. And just within the past few years, the speed at which we can do these things and the quality that we can deliver in a short amount of time has really changed. AI is a big piece of that. So today, as we sit here, we can talk about our large language models, different implementations that are leveraging retrieval augmented generation, the RAGs. We now have a new protocol on the scene, model context protocol, that is really enabling some of these ideas and implementations to scale. And these are the things that are changing sort of underneath our feet all the time. We're trying to stay on top of them. So we've got AI, we've got modern content delivery platforms that really do the things that we've been needing, that we've been wanting in this industry. So that has also helped us. Our customers have evolved over time in what they need. They've matured in what they want, what their expectations are. So that's driving us, and we're trying to deliver for those customers with increasingly sort of you know, complex and really personalized needs. So at the end of this all, you know, we put all these things together. We're really in a position now where our content, our structured content, is going from you know, what people used to and probably still today call the cost center, to basically a strategic enabler of businesses. And that's put us in a really good position to really, you know, apply our craft and use our content in ways that we couldn't 5 years ago, even maybe even 3 years ago. So it is a perfect storm. It's perfect timing for what we're doing. So the perfect timing for us means that we have decades now of implementation wisdom and experience. Our tech is ready. The market wants what we have to offer in terms of content, and we've done this enough times. We've got the you know, battle scars, if you will. We have the what not to do's and the gotchas and all those things. We have a long list of those things. We know which corners not to cut, and we know where we need to focus our energy. So this is a great time to be doing what we're doing, because we've got all the tools to be successful. And that wasn't always the case. We were making do with, you know, maybe a less than full toolbox at some point in the past, and now I feel like it's pretty full. It's you know, it's got the things that we need to really do this in the right way. So with that in mind, how do we take advantage of lessons learned, historical context, and apply those to the current day? Okay, so that traditional approach, that historical way of doing structured content implementations, data included in that, and really prominent in that, was to focus on the structure, focus on the architecture, focus on the information design, and really get that right before before doing anything else. That was the structure first approach. It's still important to do that, but that is hard work and takes very specialized and very hard to find skill sets in a lot of cases. And those high upfront costs and the time it takes to do that really were what we called barriers to entry, right? And some organizations, a lot of organizations, they said, okay, well, it's worth it. We'll take the we'll take the pain and we'll do this, and have been successful at it. But it does, for each one of those organizations that were successful, there might be another one that wasn't so successful, or that stayed on the sidelines and said, we can't do this right now. We'll wait till next year. We don't have the resources for this. So this traditional approach that started with, let's get our content source, let's get that all structured in the right way. And that's step number one. That is our core. That is our foundation. We have to do that before we do anything else. That was what it was in the past for a lot of organizations. Now, the topic of this conversation and this presentation is, it is possible to say, well, let's get the delivery started first. Let's start to produce our content. Let's deliver our content. It's not all going to be great. Maybe most of it's not going to be great, but we need to show something. We need to get it out into the wild so that we can know how to fix it, how to improve it. We got to see what we've got, right? So this new approach of starting with delivery allows us to do a progressive implementation, allows us to do this gradual evolution of our implementation, rather than doing all the structure first and then big bang, let's move everything into the structure and get it in, and then we move on to that next step. So the new approach allows us to get some quick early wins, to see what we've got, to work on that information architecture while we are working on other parts of our content infrastructure. So it is, my opinion, but also our experience, that this lowers the risk, reduces those barriers, and also shows some benefits that the business likes, that the business is going to say, hey, let's keep doing this. This is where we need to go. So again, this might be moto to a lot of you, but that is what we want to communicate, that this is a very successful approach if you want to do it this way, and you can get there a lot quicker than if you're working on the content structure before you're delivering anything. So the main reason for that is this. This is every time I give this talk, I want to focus on this more, because I think this is the takeaway for this whole approach, is that we can now, if we get our content through the full content life cycle, which means getting it out into the wild through through delivery, we can accelerate our feedback loops. We all need feedback in everything that we do in life and in business, and when content, that's especially true, because our content is being consumed by other users. We'll get to whether those are human or AI. We'll get to that in a little bit. It's both, but we need to get our content out the door as quickly as possible. It does a lot of things if we can do that. It provides a lot of benefit. It provides value for the business. People in the business can see that. Customers can see it, and we can see it as implementers, as adopters, as writers. We can see how our content is landing. We can see where the gaps are. We can see where our content needs to be optimized. So this accelerated feedback loop is only possible if we can get content from the writer's desk, I'll call it that, all the way to delivery. That's the full content life cycle. You might even say, well, I need to get it from an engineer and then get it all the way out the door through the delivery. We can only do that if we can deliver the content. So that's where this CDP first approach really helps, right? And we want to get as much content out as possible through that loop so that we can improve as much content as possible the next time around. So this is a very key thing, that we need shorter feedback cycles. We can't have those be 6 months, 9 months. That is when people get impatient, budgets get depleted, and sometimes plugs get pulled from projects. We don't want that. We want to be moving quick, iteratively, and basically have a continuous feedback loop. So if we can do this, like I said earlier, we are breaking down those barriers to adoption. If we can do this with more than just our data content, even better. And this is where we start to get into, what do we mean by a CDP and what do we need out of a CDP? We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward here, but basically, for a CDP, we need to be dealing with more than only our data source. We need to be able to combine our data source with our desktop publishing outputs, with whatever the developers are using in their markdown, their restructured text, all of those different types of content sources. We need to be able to deliver them in a unified sort of way. So if we can get that, then we've actually got a holistic view of what is this business producing in terms of content that's helping, supporting, or even selling to customers, right? So this is, a good CDP, a good delivery will help us break down some of these barriers. Also, a good CMS will do that, obviously, but the focus here is going to be on the CDP, because that's that endpoint of getting the content out. So last piece here that I want to highlight is, again, is the speed at which we can do these things, right? So number 5 here, quick deployment is really key. And we can tell people, hey, good things come with time. You got to wait, you got to have patience, and that's true. Bottom line is that a lot of people in positions that sort of fund our work, that approve our work, they don't have that patience. They want to see something quick. So we got to be able to stand up our solutions quickly and show that value quickly. So that is another, to me, is another key requirement of a CDP is, can we stand it up quickly? Can we get our content out the door quickly? We can't afford a year's worth of implementation time, 6 months worth of implementation time. We need to get up and running, and so we can get those feedback loops going right away. So just to sum up these approaches here, this is our traditional, adoption implementation roadmap here, and we've been doing it for decades now. It does work, it just is riskier, and it is front loaded with that information architecture. We still have to do that work. That is the yeoman's work that needs to be done. We're not saying not to do that, but we're saying that front loading it like this is risky. So this was what I call the waterfall approach. Do the information architecture, use that information architecture as your model for conversion, or your target for conversion. Put that in your CCMS and onboard your teams, and then start to deliver things, right? Of course, this is a two-dimensional diagram here. More likely you're going to have some of these things going concurrently, but you get the point. The shape of this waterfall approach is front loaded with information architecture, and the outputs sort of come at the end, including the translations. They come at the end, and then that takes a while. Here I've got 18 to 36 months. That is fairly accurate according to history and our historical numbers of what it takes before you really start to get some benefit from a structured content adoption. So now, if we've got the full content lifecycle, we can do something more like this. You've got a CDP that you can start delivering content through. The architecture work is still key, and you're going to do some of that early on. It's going to be more focused on metadata and taxonomy to begin with, because your content is going out and into the wild now, and it needs to be put together in different ways or consumed in different ways based on a customer's experience, the product they have, the solution they have, and the type of content they're looking for, and they want it quick. So that taxonomy, that metadata is really important, and that is, if anything in our information architecture is to be front loaded, it would be that. So if you get this going and you can go end to end with your content lifecycle, then you've got this feedback loop again that is quicker. These things can happen now in 1 to 2 business cores if you're doing it right. You still need to do these, down the road, still need to do that heavy information architecture with your information typing and your sort of low level semantic tagging and all those sorts of things. But you can do that while the business is kind of looking at the outputs and looking at the quick wins that you're already delivering, and that just gives fuel to what you got to do for the next year or two with really cleaning up the overall content architecture at an organization. So that is what that looks like, and I think we all want to go faster. We all want to deliver those quick wins, and this is one way to do that. So with that, I will get to the CDP a little bit as a piece of the tech stack here, right? Of the content infrastructure. What we want from our CDPs are to be able to, like I said earlier, unify our content, handle multiple formats, and basically be the content hub at our organizations. So if we can get the right hub, the right, I'm looking for a better word, but I'll use that for now. If we can get the right hub of all of our content, we're ahead of the game. So we need the technology to do that, and again, we need it to be stood up in a quick way so that we're ready to go and we're ready to start with those feedback loops. If we can do this, we can grow this adoption over time. So we start small. Feedback loops lead to more content in the system next time, lead to optimized decisions that we are making with our content, and measurable progress as we go along. So this is that iterative approach we're talking about, continuous feedback loop, and what we can do with it in terms of our content. So here's just an example of, if those of you who are kind of saying, well, where does that fit in with the rest of it, right? This is sort of an example of how a large organization that has a lot of silos can leverage what I'm talking about here, and really get everybody on board eventually, and show some quick wins early, right? So in the silos, I'll give you the sort of play-by-play here. In the silos, you're going to have some folks that will want to go to structure right away and maybe are ready for it. So they can actually go into that XML, let's call it DITA in this case, and they can put that content into their CCMS. That CCMS can deliver to the CDP, and in this case, do whatever packaging and delivery that needs to happen. This is a very specific customer example, so not everybody will have that package and delivery, but the main thing you see here is that the metadata is for wrapping all of our outputs, and that's a unified approach to our, our customers, our audience, our customers, our products, and the way that they're using the content. That's the unified taxonomy. In the siloed repositories, you may have folks that just don't want to move now or ever. If you have that CDP already set up, you can go straight to that and at least get some benefits of the unified taxonomy, unified delivery. And that's what this is trying to show here. Some of those people will never, in this company, will never go to structure, but they will have a way to publish and deliver their content in the same way as the folks who are doing structure, and will be sort of wrapped with that unified taxonomy approach. So with that, I've been talking a lot, and Fabrice, if you tried to jump in, then sorry, because I probably talked over you. So I'm going to turn it over to Fabrice now to really talk about how, to sort of unpack the way that AI is acting as the catalyst for a lot of the changes we're seeing in the delivery game. Fabrice, you want to take it away and just let me know when to move slides, okay?
But I'll have 2 or 3 questions for you at the end. So I'll be kicking off the question answer moment by because I have a few questions for you on the strategy and how you make that change in the strategic approach work, because I see some risk up, but you're right in what you describe, and when you were telling that reminded me about one of our customer that became a customer like 5-6 years ago, and it's a huge company, it's a global huge company, and the procurement phase lasted 2 years. And we went from initial RFP, long list, short list, final, we won. But during that last phase, POC, pilot, more workshops, more questions, and we were talking about anything, the vision, the whatever, AI in 5 years, and semantic, and all of that. And they chose 3 topics. And the project, after a few months, they went live. 99% of the content was PDFs. My God, they spent 2 years evaluating all the solutions of the market just to publish 500,000 of PDFs. That's weird. And that's exactly what you described. I just realized now, and I told them that. I said, I'm a bit disappointed, a free topic is not mostly for structured content, and you use that for publishing PDFs. No, the project, it's 10 years, it's a 10-year project. We're just starting. We're starting fast. We have the platform. It's already a huge benefit because we can deprovision legacy systems. We have good search. We can put our metadata, and then we can start transitioning to more structured content and replace PDFs and static documents with more dynamic delivery and all that. But already just day one, just having these front design capabilities and better search and metadata capabilities on the PDFs for search, and just that, it's already huge for us. So, oh my God, okay. And say, okay, the rest will come. That's why we chose you. That's why we spent 2 years evaluating all the solutions. But you're right, that's how they started. Okay, we have PDFs, let's just throw the PDFs at the CDP. And that was the starting point. So that's an interesting story. If you move to the next slide, let's talk about AI. And as well, if you move to the next slide, so you had this in the first slide where you say, okay, AI is driving the change. That's the moment. And probably if you move again to the next slide, I will give you a bit of a perspective of how we see ourselves, our product has evolved over time, not just technically, but the perception and what was the demand of the market, how we were seeing our mission, our job, and our platform, what we were trying to develop, and how it has shifted. And that's very interesting, because when we started and we imagined free topics like 12 years ago now, or something like that, 11 years ago, the demand at that time was mostly our first customers were mostly having structured content initially. So they were going through that process that you described, okay, whether it was data or other content, but mostly structured content. And what they wanted to do is just get a portal where they could publish the structured content, stop generating PDFs, okay? Because without a CDP, most of them were writing in data, say data, for example, pressing a button, generating the PDFs, and then put the PDFs on the website. and the search experience, everything was poor, and most of them were disappointing because all this effort they had put in organizing, structuring the content was lost generating those PDFs and putting a PDF somewhere with a lousy search technology. So what the Swing Free Topics is this opportunity, and that was we introduced, is the capability to say write structured, publish structured. And that was the demand at that time. So that was a bit niche. That was very much what our first customers were, mostly data and few other structured content publishing authoring tools, but they wanted to publish structure. Okay, so if you move next, go next. I think you have you got the button. Then what we saw after that is what you describe as well. It's like, say, okay, we publish structured content, and that was like 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. They said, okay, now that we have this front portal, which was mostly what they were looking, the CDP was a front thing. Okay, that was the touch point. Say, we'd like to put more content into this portal because the search is good, and now we've got better UI. We can design better the user experience, the branding, the everything. So we'd like to put more content. So okay, let's try to unify content, and we started having content coming from multiple sources, and that's where we introduce. If you move to the next slide again, this idea that pretty much a CDP is not just a new way of doing content delivery front side, but it has to be highly capable on the backend side, which is the knowledge hub you described, this hub of content. And then we understood that 5 years ago, and then we developed it, that a huge part of our product was to be this technology, this solution for aggregating content, enriching, aligning content, and creating this unified repository. And the portal was just one sub-part of the platform. What this was the main thing that people wanted initially. The portal, the visible part of it, was just the tip of the iceberg, but the main thing was building the knowledge hub and then having API as well. But this knowledge hub should be headless as well, so that through APIs, they could then connect other apps and consume that content from other applications. Typically in product help. Okay, software vendor, they got the product on the web. They want to have these pop-up windows in product pane that open with the instructions on what to do, how to use the software, pull from the repository through API. So that was this moving again from being a portal with multiple content, being a knowledge hub with front capabilities and headless solution at the same time. So that's pretty much the idea 3 years ago. Now, if you go next, then AI comes in, okay? 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. And then everybody says, okay, that's what a CDP is. So the definition, the idea of what a CDP is unifying content, feeding touch points, including building portals. AI comes in, what do we do with AI? How does AI fit into this architecture idea of a CDP? And that's interesting because even this, our perception has evolved over the next 18 months. If you go to the next slide, the first thing we did, as everybody doing a CDP, is that let's use AI to enrich the existing platform so AI on the authoring side, which we don't take care of at the CCMS level in multiple tools, people are trying to bring AI to help people write better, create their content faster. And for us, that was, can we use AI, how to use AI to better analyze, process the content, and reach the content. And on the portal side, how can we enrich the user experience by adding those like summarize, live translation, a bit of a chatbot. See what I mean? It's like do the chatbot, do better search, do better reading. So it's like infusing the existing platform with AI, okay? So that's what we have today. And for those of you that know Free Topics, you can enrich and drag and drop components on your front portal built with Free Topics that add this AI, generative AI powered interactions to make it more lively, and including the chatbot instead of keyword search that people can ask natural language questions. But connected to the knowledge hub. But it's a bit of the same. What we see now, and that was very new for me, if you go next, is that now we understand, and that's very, very new. That's from 3 months ago, that tomorrow, that's today, and that's tomorrow. Tomorrow, probably 50% of your content will be consumed not by humans, but by LLMs. Because everything I've been describing from 9 years ago, 6 years ago, aggregating content, 3 years ago, API for serving different content to different touch points, it's always a human reading that content, whether it's inside the TechDoc portal or reading in product help instructions. It's always a human reading the content. So you're always serving that content to some people reading that content, searching themselves, typing in the search bar, or if it's a chatbot natural language question, then reading the reply, and then getting to that content, reading the content, checking everything. We have always considered the CDP as being a tool for delivering content to humans. What is new, and when I say tomorrow, tomorrow is almost today. What is new is that you have to understand that in 1, 2, 3, 6 months from now, your content will be partly, mostly consumed by AI agents, by LLMs, asking questions, not humans. Most of the workflows in our companies will be revamped, redesigned to be AI powered, so that the workflows can be automatically executed by AI systems. And those AI systems, at some point, may need to know how to do something, what is the capability of that product, what is the thing to be done, and then they will query this knowledge repository. So the knowledge hub that is built here, the portal side will be for the humans. We will still be building those portals, the blue box, but most of the part of that content will be served to LLMs in some way. And that's what MCP is about. It's letting LLMs query your system. And that's very new for me, because that's the idea. On the one side, that's how FluidTopics is now designed and architectured. The backend part with strong capabilities to unify content, ingest content, enrich, add metadata, all that is one part of the product. Then we have all these designer capabilities to create the portals. But then we thought that was huge. In fact, it's huge for 50% of the needs. The rest of the needs are making this unified repository available to LLMs and agents in the company through MCP. So which is why we have added to the platform an MCP wrapper. So we have this MCP compatibility, and we already have developed use cases. So that's not the purpose of that today. And for those of you attending here that are customers or partners, we're giving next week on the 25th. So yeah, that's really in 7 days, next Wednesday. We are giving a presentation of an MCP application leveraging this. It's crazy what you can do. It's really amazing. And I think that we need to consider everything we do, including the MCP setup, the CDP setup, going CDP first, with the idea that your CDP will be serving LLMs. You can deploy your CDP without even caring about building the portal first. See what I mean? It's like, if your goal, if the pressure, the demand in your company is, we need to rebuild our workflows and processes with AI, to automate our workflows, to augment our agents, the people working in the company with AI, and we're going to develop agentic AI in the company. People will come to you and say, we need the content, we need that. So, and you won't hand over the content to them. You won't give them the PDFs or the data files. That won't work. You have to make this content available, not as content, but as AI as a service. It's content as a service with AI as a service. So you need to expose your content through MCP with all the services, meaning that you need to put in place a CDP that collects this tech doc and make it available through MCP. And then maybe you can do the portal as well for the humans, the 50 See what I mean? But today, if you do static HTML generation somewhere, put a bit of search on top, and you have designed everything for humans, you will have to rebuild everything for LLMs anyway. So that's where you need a CDP, and with the idea that probably the CDP first is even CDP for AI and LLMs first. That's where we are today now. The way we deal with this perspective on AI and content, and how can you go fast, put that content, make that content available very fast, not just to humans, but mostly to LLMs as well, as a use case. Oh my God, I lost you.
Are you there, Fabrice?
Yeah, no, did I lose you?
No. So I have a question for you. I was asking myself this morning, devil's advocate. So if MCP allows us to connect to all these other data sources, right, quickly and in the same fashion, the same protocol, then why do we need everything in one place? What value does CDP bring?
That's a very good question. I think we are entering there's a continuum. You can say I put really everything in one place, like one data lake where you have all the content from the company, from tech doc to legal to marketing to CRM to help desk to whatever, and you dump everything in one place, so which is way more than what you have on that slide. And then you just have one MCP server and everything, but that you don't need MCP then. If you put everything in one place, everything in one place, you don't need MCP. Okay, MCP is when you do federation. So now you can go down to every tiny application, every tiny silo of information as an MCP server on top. You could do that. That's what you say. Why do we need to unify? But it means that you will have to maintain hundreds of MCP servers in your company, like one on top of SharePoint, one on top of OpenAPI. Where do you store OpenAPI? OpenAPI are YAML files. If you have OpenAPI documentation, documenting your APIs, you have that on Git, just that, or somewhere on a file server or externally. And then you need one MCP servers just for OpenAPI documentation. See what I mean? That becomes super complex. So there's a granularity in the IT landscape to be defined, which is for me domain oriented. So probably you have to unify content, the content that is around the product knowledge, which is pretty much the domain of free topics. We focus on product knowledge only. And then free topics becomes your MCP server as well. And we take care of unifying content, aligning metadata, because there's a context needs and the granularity of the content and the application of external taxonomies. Otherwise, you have to do application of external taxonomies in every silo that you see below free topics. So we're simplifying that and creating consistency and cohesiveness of content that is product-related content. And then probably you have an HR solution, and this HR solution, which is all the CRM or help desk tool, will have an MCP server around the help desk tool, because it's the cases that have been open and all that. So it's mostly like large platforms will each be MCP enabled, MCP compliant, and you'll have probably in a company 5-10 MCP servers corresponding different subdomains of the knowledge in your company: HR, marketing, CRM for sales and everything related to sales, and see what I mean, help desk and all of that.
Okay, yeah. I think I got a lot of what you said there about the granularity and the all the different little silos that need tending to, and that makes sense. My answer to that when I was thinking about it this morning is really this is the same answer to the people who say that, well, what are tech writers going to do? What's their role in this? There's definitely a role. What is it? And I think it's in something like this. It is there's got to be a trusted source. We know that a lot of those silos of content are going to have are not going to be great. They're either going to be outdated or inaccurate, or it's just going to be a real jumbled sort of jumbled mess of content. This would be the more the CDP would be the trusted source where it is curated, optimized, well written, quality controlled. That is going to be the gold source, the gold standard of the content, and then the other pieces need to be reconciled. The other sources need to be reconciled with that as the gold standard. And I think that would be my answer. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I fully agree. Absolutely, I fully agree with you. Which is, by the way, interesting in this those tasks to be done and what you described in a slide before, whereas the different steps in a waterfall approach, which was design the content architecture, the schemas, and then implement, transition your content, and deliver at the end. And I think that's going to be still be existing in the future, but less, because when the consumer of the information is an LLM, you don't need that much structure all the time. I mean, for me, but you're right. You have to make sure that all the content that is made available to those agentic systems are curated, properly tagged. The taxonomy, for me, that's the golden age of taxonomists for me. We are back to taxonomy, content tagging, because the tags on the content are bringing context. When is that content applicable? For what product, in what version, for what sort of tasks? You see what I mean? Because if you don't have that, that's the problem. Most of the AI, the RAG, the simple RAG project that have been done so far by many companies, most have failed because they were seen as technical projects, and people were throwing PDFs and static documents and large PDFs at those AI things, like computing the embeddings and all that. The problem is that most of these documents don't contain tags and the metadata that an AI was not really designed, and those systems were not really designed so that the AI systems could sort of say, oh, this paragraph, these instructions apply to that version of the product, not that one. See what I mean? Because probably it's something like it's 2 pages before, 3 pages before at the beginning of a chapter. And for a human, when you read the doc, you can sort of correlate those very distant things, and sometimes AI fail at that. And we've seen most of the chatbot, RAG-based AI projects that were just based on documents collected in SharePoint on those PDFs failed because of that lack of accuracy, being far from being relevant. What people could call hallucinating. It's not hallucinating because it's not inventing. It's wrong because just hundreds of pages PDFs don't make it easy for LLMs to digest, make sense of. So I think that the role of the tech writing teams is going to change, evolve a bit, and I absolutely, fully, 100% support adhere to what you said, which is organizing, curating content is going to be a big task.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think Fabrice, anything else here? I think we can move it along.
I think we can wrap up. I mean, it's like what you described to CDP first. It's for me even more amplified. And probably when you wrote, and I saw you explaining that a few months ago, 6 months ago, I saw this talk and said, oh my God, yeah, that's right. But it's even more 3 months later with this MCP moment, it's even more true. You see what I mean? Just because the consumers can be LLMs and the project have to be delivered in 3 months, nobody in your company will wait 18 months so that you transition some content to data and then put a CDP and then put MCP server in 18 months or 2 years from now. They will want to do this AI-driven project in September, October, next January. And you need to unify that content first, and you need a platform for that. Otherwise, the project will fail. So then that's even the need to switch the way you consider the projects and how you organize this project in iterative mode and not a waterfall model makes even more sense now.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think just to sum this up, and we'll move along here, the importance of this, I think, you know, for the audience, if you're seeing and hearing from me and Fabrice and yourselves, probably even your own teams, there's an urgency here around what we can do and what we can accomplish and quickly with our content. And the CDP is I had to give you the acronym earlier. In some organizations, you still have to, you know, explain it. That's what this is. But eventually, it should be like CRM or ERP, right? That piece of technology within certain businesses in operationally in a company that are what we would call mission critical software applications. And CDP is not there yet in terms of the way that businesses think about those. But I think our take, and on this from an agnostic point of view, I know Fabrice has, you know, has fluid topics, but from an agnostic point of view, I think operationally a CDP is essential. And by relation, I think a CCMS should be as well, right? But that's a whole nother topic. So these content infrastructure tools that we've always felt like in our industry are nice to haves are now mission critical because of the things we can do with AI. So that is something that you know, something to think about. I'm not trying to be provocative in any way, but I do think that that's the reality, that we have to have these tools to leverage all the work that we've been doing with our content and the business now beyond, you know, only our customers in those portals or using our help centers, right? Our customers can benefit from that still in a better way, but now the business can benefit from it through the AI agents and through different applications within the companies that are feeding off this CDP, right? So there's so much potential and opportunity right now, and it's all there. You just got to put the pieces together. So let's wrap this up.
Yeah, you're not presenter anymore. I want people to look at you when you say that. I removed your screen sharing. It has to be from your eyes, not from your screen, because that's exactly what you say is right. No, and the audience can start asking questions. I'm pretty sure you have questions for Frank or me on topic, but I agree with you. I think that's a new moment. I think that's a very an unexpected moment for most of us. We didn't see that coming that fast. And this agentic thing is redefining the need for content, what content should be, how to make that content available in your company, or even outside your company, because with MCP, you can expose part of your content with an MCP server that is public for public content, and have the agentic systems of your customers asking questions as well. So when I say MCP servers, MCP for having AI system consuming your content, it's not only your internal to your company, but because you can make your content, at least the public content and even private, some specific content, available to your own customers through MCP so that they can build their own systems, their own agentic systems. And it's gonna be super fast, because you cannot imagine, I don't know how many of you are already involved or have tried MCP and built two systems, but it's absolutely crazy. And when we see the amount of energy and the investment made by the AI ecosystem and all those companies to develop MCP and build the products and build the use cases, it's crazy how fast it goes. It's even faster than what we saw with LLMs like 2 years ago when ChatGPT arrived. It's like what's happening with MCP and agentic is absolutely massive.
Hey, Fabrice, now that I've stared into the camera, can you give me the screen share back? I want to wrap up with a couple thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, more. Okay, I make you the print. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Can you see my screen now? Show my screen. Okay, can you see it now?
It's coming.
Yeah?
No, not yet. Yep, we do. We're back.
Okay. So just to wrap this up, right? just a few more thoughts in summary. So the things that we've been doing with content, with structure, with data, XML, semantic tagging, taxonomies, all of those things, it matters now more than ever. So it's actually a great time to be doing this, doing what we do. AI loves patterns. That is indisputable. Right? AI loves patterns. We've been creating content patterns for decades now, and so it's a natural marriage of what we do with AI. So just to keep everybody keep everybody sort of understand the urgency here of moving forward with whatever it is that you want to do. Now's a great time to do that. As Fabrice mentioned, the audience now is going to be half human and half AI. On the human side of things, we get feedback, this is wrong, this wasn't helpful, or this was great, I would like this, or I would like that. AI is going to have a similar sort of feedback loop, but it's going to be a little more brutally honest. And what Fabrice and I were talking a couple of days ago, and it really is a truth serum, if you want to call it that. Right? If AI agents are consuming your content, you will see where the gaps are, you will see where it's wrong, you will see where it's confusing, or where you've confused AI, and that gives you the opportunity to fix it. So there's so much that that you can do with this new audience of your content. So the takeaway is perfect timing for doing what you want to do. Our professions now as technical communications professionals and writers and information developers, it is more important than ever, and it is becoming more acknowledged that what we do is really helping the business. And take advantage of it, leverage that, and do the things that you need to do and that you wanted to do, because now it's a lot easier to prove that value and that benefit than it was even a couple of years ago. If you apply some of these ideas, some of these technologies, somebody is going to see that and say, yes, that helps our business. So this is perfect timing, and I will sort of reiterate the urgency of this, with one of the sayings that I like. I like to plant trees. I've planted a lot of trees. I don't have enough land to plant any more trees. So I have to say this to people who can plant trees. Best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is now. This is actually when you start to do those things that are going to bear fruit from here on out. And the quicker, the better. Quick doesn't mean you have to make any compromises in terms of quality these days. You can go fast and still do all the things that are going to make for a good sound implementation and really improve your content quality. So that's that's what we had to say. Thanks, Fabrice, for letting me wrap it up. I would feel incomplete if I wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, perfect.
And now we can take questions from the audience. You can take the screen, Fabrice, if you'd like to.
Okay. But I fully agree with you to wrap up. It's the perfect time. And again, I mean, probably getting budget for your project should be easier than it has ever been if you can show that all this retooling that you plan to do now is for as well serving these short-term goals of companies to being AI powered. So that's where the money goes today. So probably if you can, and it's really, you're going to serve and help those projects be successful.
Yep.
Do we have questions? Not for the moment.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I didn't see any. Yeah, I checked. I didn't see any. So
really, there's no question? Oh my God. Like, what is MCP? Oh my God. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we could have started with a demo of MCP. Yeah. I do have a question for you though. When you described the speed, when you were emphasizing the importance of speed, okay, and that's by starting delivery first, that everything could be you could have a first project delivered in whatever 2-3 months on your slide. My point here, I said, oh my God, is there a risk that by going very fast and delivering something that is unperfect and then iterating, there's a bit of a rejection because it's not good enough, or people could be disappointed in your company? You remember this story I told about, the real one, about this customer that I've started publishing PDFs only? Probably everybody was aware in the company that would start like it. So that it would start with PDFs only and not with structured and the full thing with structured content. So probably they had managed the expectations as well. So is there something that should be taken care of, like expectation management? Like, okay, we start fast, but it's not a one-time project. It's going to be a project, and every 2-3 months there'll be something new. See what I mean? It's not the same as planning, delivering, and say, let's move on to something else, then delivering fast, and then keep on iterating. So do you have to plan for this expectation, managing the expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that were important in the old approach in terms of project management or call it program management, communications, expectation setting, stakeholder relationships, all of those things are still important, and even more so, right? Just to communicate what to expect and what the benefits are. So I don't think any of that changes. I think the details change, but the role is still necessary. And you mentioned it sometime during the talk where you said, some of these things are seen as tools projects, right? They're not, they're content projects, and that needs to be clearly communicated and expectations set accordingly. So yeah, that's something that AI can't replace, not yet at least, and that's the good, human interhuman relational skills, right? And people in different companies are, they know how to navigate those relationships within their companies, and that still needs to happen. You shouldn't get around that. That's a failure point. You shouldn't cut corners on that either. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's still needed, and it's just a shorter time frame. That shorter iterations, and each one it's almost like a scrum master that is saying, here's what we're doing in this sprint. This is the theme of this sprint, and then at that sprint demo or retrospective or both, we say this is what we've got, right? This is what we did, and we didn't quite get to this one. This goes into the next sprint, and having that sort of continuous feedback loop that has the communications to go with it, and even the ceremonies to go with it. I think that's important.
Okay, thanks. So we do have questions. First one from John. Talk about the mix of structured and non-structured content, such as PDF in fluid topics and MCP. Would there be then an inconsistent quality in AI ingestion and knowledge of your content set due to those two formats, structured versus unstructured? That's exactly what the answer is. Yes, unstructured content like PDFs will always be more complex to manage and may lead to lesser quality. But that's exactly what I described, where we're also using AI at the moment of processing the PDF to chunk them and sort of try to make them like granular content as well, and take the metadata that you have set when publishing them into free topics at the PDF level and project those metadata on every chunk. So yeah, but it's never going to be as good as having structured content, but we are applying AI technology as well for increasing the quality of those PDFs as much as we can. That's part of what we do in the platform.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Fabrice. So we have this as actually part of, to John's question, we have this part of a strategy in an implementation I'm working on, where some people don't even see the benefit of structure, right? And it's big enough that we're not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to convert people. So
they're gonna learn.
having the proof is in the output, right? The proof is there, and we're hoping that some of those people that are publishing their books, their monolithic documents, will see the difference in the customer experience between the two. So, you know, and if they see it and they want to do something about it, then they will. And some won't see it. Some will see it and just not do anything about it, but some will see it and do something about it. And that's what we're banking on.
Agreed. Daryl comments on what you said earlier, which is I suggest bringing in the concept of MVP, when minimum viable product, when it comes to setting expectations. You're right, but you have to manage expectations when you go in iterative mode. That's part of the game.
Yep. Good call out.
Oh, that's one for you. Maybe can you read the third one from Bill? You see it?
Third one from Bill. What would the I see it.
You can read it loud because people don't see it.
Oh, you know what? I clicked on it and it disappeared.
So what would be, I asked the question to you. What would be the best approach to prepare your content into the structure that AI appreciates for the best consumption? That's a good one. What is the best structure for AI? Do you have to go as deep and as semantic as refined that you would do with full data? Or is there something in between where you can start being structured without too much of the cost of full data, lightweight data or something like that? Or
that's, you know, I don't have a great answer for that because I have some ideas. We sort of default to, even if you're not using data, to use those structures of of topics and typed topics that have a name that is semantically meaningful to what that topic is. So starting with topics, I think, is good. Going to your point, Fabrice, down to the very granular levels of understanding of what is a piece of syntax, or what is a parameter, or whatever. If you're just preparing it for AI, then maybe you don't need to go that far. I think it depends on your
initially. I would agree with that. Not initially. Iterate as well to know how much, because that's a lot of effort, and sometimes a bit over designing, over engineering your content and it's exponentially complex to put semantics in the content. So over engineering the content, maybe too much sometimes. Fully agree. Marco, what does Marco say? Marco says, I, first of all, fully support the approach of going for the easy win and give the user the possibility to access the content, and then keeping to improve the structure on the background. Okay, so we're converging here. Given that taxonomy is probably possible starting with a basic framework and then enriching it with data mining and time as well. That's true for taxonomy design. You can as well iterate on that side, not just on the content, but on the taxonomy design. That's absolutely right. Thanks, Marco, for reminding us that. Do you think it will also be possible to utilize the content in the CDP for analyzing the usage of content and developing an ontology? Well, that becomes another use case. You can do that with AI, but then it's not AI for the delivery and for LLMs. It's more AI for enriching content. Now the question is, do you still need an ontology? That's another topic. But when you see what LLMs can do with almost plain content, granular, properly tagged, with a bit of structure, but not necessarily everything, and you see how far you can go with that. Do you have to pay the cost of an ontology for that? Not sure. Jason said it was great and gives me a lot to think about. Thank you. You're welcome, Jason. Again, never been the best moment to ask for money. Your project will be funded. If you say it's for delivering content to AI systems, I'm pretty sure you'll get someone to fund your project. And then Pim says, use the analytics to know what to improve in full data. Yeah, as well. That's right. You can as well look at what content is consumed to see where to put your effort. What we don't know yet, back to that, is when humans were consuming the content, you could use the analytics and say, oh, people are reading more this and that document. What we don't know yet is that when that content will be consumed by LLMs, if the same way of looking at the analytics is still valid, because the way LLMs will consume content will be more massive, you see what I mean? And then they'll sort out, after having getting like 50 pages of content. As a human, you don't read 50 pages of content. You try to spot the 1 or 2 pages that you need. See what I mean? So you go fast and back and forth, like you see a result, you go into the document, you check, you go back. It's called dwell time. How long you stay on the document gives you a lot of indication whether or not that document is relevant to that query or that. So there's a way of tracking how people consume content to feed those analytics and make decisions on whether or not that content should be has more value or less value in that situation or not. Now, when the content will be consumed by LLMs, it's totally different the way they will do. They will get 100 pages at a time, not from the same document, but they say, okay, give me this, give me that, give me that. In one query, they will collect about 50, 100 pages, and then make their decision internally whether or not they will use that info or not, but you will never know. See what I mean? So the analytics and measuring how using analytics when content is consumed by LLMs will be a bit different as well. So I don't know how much we will be able to derive value from that. That's the beginning. We don't even know yet ourselves. We'll learn that as we move on. We don't have any question yet. I think we're good. I mean, it's like an hour, 15 minutes. So we're way past the
stop at an hour, or did we have 90 minutes?
Past the hour. That was fast. It's always a pleasure. Nada, it's an amazing. It's an amazing subject for me because, in the perspective of CDP for human consumption, okay, CDP when it comes to AI, that's a totally different game, and I love that. I mean, it's a great moment.
Yeah, it really is, and it's it's fun to talk about what we can do. New ideas come all the time. As Fabrice and I were preparing for this, just bouncing ideas off each other. The light bulbs go on, right? They go on weekly now, daily sometimes, about the things we could do if we've got the right content. If we've got the content that AI is going to like, and we do, and so the ideas are always coming, and then the technology is always either catching up or passing us up or giving us new possibilities, and so it's great. It is a great time. So I guess, Fabrice, I don't know, I guess we should say goodbye. Trish, does Trish want to say anything, or I think Trish is done, and
she would say goodbye as well. So I want to thank
you. I don't seem to be able to connect my my camera, but I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Trish. Yep.
Okay, well, this was great. Thank you so very much. CIDM webinars, always interesting, always exciting with Fabrice, and glad to have you with us, Frank. I hope this won't be the only time. So with that, I will close and say thank you so very much, and please join us for our next CIDM webinar.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Frank.
Bye, Fabrice. See you later.
See you.